Hi everyone, it's Erkan Ali here with Shulagh Jacobs and our special guest, Chris Hughes, all the way from Bournemouth, to share some ideas. We've titled this talk, Living by Design. Chris, welcome to the show. Shulagh, anything you'd like to say to get us started?
Hi Chris.
Good morning everyone.
Really delighted to have you with us today because I've got some burning questions that I want to ask, given that you're way ahead of me in the self-sufficiency journey.
Yeah, so that kicks us straight in, doesn't it, Shulagh? So the reason we decided to invite Chris onto the show is off the back of our last show, we were starting to talk about how life has changed and what we're doing. And I think Chris, we've kind of been party to Chris's journey from pre-COVID to COVID to what he's doing now. So Chris, do you want to just introduce yourself to the audience and tell us what was life like before what we're going to be discussing was like for you?
Okay. Well, hi everyone. Chris Hughes, and I ran a business. Spent many years previous to running my own business in credit management, ensuring that companies got paid, and that was my main dedication. And there was a real watershed when the COVID crisis started. I really wanted to do something about it. I was so frustrated by the threat of lockdown, supermarket queues, and I really wanted to try and make my own way in the world. And I guess I wanted to be the writer, sort of director and lead in my own play and not an extra in someone else's. And I felt empowered to do something about it. And what could I do? I had a garden down here near Bournemouth. It wasn't particularly big. And you probably watched the journey where I've started digging the garden up to make a vegetable patch. And that was literally where this all started from. Could I do it? I didn't know. Could I make some food of my own? I really didn't know. I had a greenhouse. I planted some seeds, and that's where this all started. And it's led to me now looking to perhaps moving to different premises to really extend this, and with the aim of a more self-sufficiency in the future, because, you know, I really felt that I could do this, but I hadn't got a great idea about how I'd get there. And I didn't have a great plan.
Can I pause you for a sec, Chris? Because I don't want to go too far. I want to pause you on, this shift from living the life of the debt collector or helping businesses get paid to starting to see the world, how it was changing and what those because on our last video we were discussing with Shulagh saying, first of all, you've got to work out what is going on, how do you see the world, and then what are the things you need to do in relation to those circumstances and situation. So how would you describe that shift for you? Was it a gradual kind of awareness of what was going on? Was it an epiphany, or how does it occur to you?
I think it was gradual, because I've got to be honest with you, I was Mr. Radio 4. Everything I listened to, BBC, it's got to be the truth. And I literally was absolutely brainwashed by everything that I heard in the mainstream, and particularly the BBC. I was a big fan. I've got to be honest with you. I thought, well, if it's on there, it's got to be true. And then I started to question things. And one of the reasons I started to question things was because I didn't like the way it was so biased. But added to that, I also became a member of the Beyond Mainstream, which made me start looking at things from a different angle. You don't have to follow the mainstream press, the mainstream media, to get an idea of what's going on. You have to look deeper. You have to look for yourself and make your own decisions. And as you said, Erkan, you can be wrong, you can be corrected, you shouldn't judge other people for their opinions, but I wanted to look at it independently and try and get my own viewpoints. And now, when I'm confronted with anything on the news, because I do catch up occasionally to see what's going on in the mainstream media, obviously, I take a quite cynical view of what is being presented, and I try and look behind that and look where the agenda is going and why it's there, rather than dwelling principally on this is fact, I'll just take it on board. I really do question things. And I've got to thank yourselves for perhaps bringing that about in me, although I was starting to question it myself. And my partner, B, is very much one to say, look, don't believe everything you hear. And I started to look at other areas, and I feel revitalized because I'm able to distinguish what's truth and perhaps what's fiction.
So by all accounts, that was a gradual journey. Like, so and we discussed this the other day, didn't we, Shulagh, on the show, about how it's not like one red pill and everything's you're enlightened. It's actually there may be some information that gets your attention, and you look at it, and then you shift your perspective. And I think if we go back to, say, the BBC specifically, but mainstream in general, we've grown up with these entities, with these bastions of unbiased reporting, and they even tell you how amazing they are at bringing you all the information and the analysis, so you can work out what's going on. And then somehow along the way, because I was a fan of the BBC up until probably 10 years ago, but I was, and then you start going, hold on, they just said this, they present this narrative, and then you look at it and you kind of go, it doesn't seem to match up with what I'm seeing, not just off beyond mainstream, but actually as you're presenting it, it doesn't even stick. A lot of those conversations are highly biased and framed a certain way, and I think you develop a certain ear for it, because at first you can't hear it, it's just slightly off, and then it kind of goes, wow, it's really a whole different level of propaganda, and people call it mind control, brainwashing organization, which I've come to think of it as.
You've absolutely nailed it there. Yeah, you've absolutely nailed it, because that's exactly what's happened. And it wasn't immediate, as you said, it was gradual. But there were questions in my mind even before the beginning of this year. I was starting to look at things in a different way. I didn't like some of the election coverage. I didn't like the way in which, and that's been the same for a number of years, but it particularly grew momentum in 2019. And then obviously with everything that's gone on with the current crisis, call it what you may, I felt that this added extra momentum to my wanting to stand back and try and look at things in an independent way. It really made me question things, and I can't actually bear to listen to Radio 4 for very long now.
No, I hear you. I mean, so what we say in coaching terms, when I work with clients in coaching, when you shift context, everything changes. Like the perception of how it occurs, what is going on, how you diagnose your current situation shifts, and then that shapes your actions. And I think on that note, you started to find yourself doing things you'd never done before.
Well, precisely. I thought this is I can't perhaps make the best move by just telling everyone this is rubbish, media is rubbish. I've actually got to physically do something to make this demonstrable, to show what I can do. And that's really where this shift came on, this sort of revitalization of my own life. Yeah, my parents had grown stuff quite successfully, but I'd never really been interested. And the simple fact is, I grew practically everything out there from seed. And to take a seed, put it in some soil, into a greenhouse, and then watch it actually grow, I felt absolute oneness with this. I really connected with it. And it completely changed me. So much so that I'm absolutely overjoyed even when a tomato comes up. It's just such a movement, such a change in me, and the joy that B and all my friends have when I give them various foodstuffs is just so fulfilling. It really is absolutely wonderful to
before we started the call, Chris, you showed me some tomatoes. Show us your tomatoes. Have you got them handy?
Well, this is just from the garden this morning, only small ones, but these are being picked this morning. Now, every morning I pick that sort of quantity of tomatoes. I've got quite a few growing out there. And, things like this, which is a carrot I've just plucked out of the garden. You can see it's covered in muck.
I can see Shulagh's face now. She's like, whoa.
The smell.
Well, every single one is like a little mini miracle, and I know exactly what you mean when you've just got this sense of wonder that you put a seed in the ground, and like we know that's how life happens, but you don't get over the amazement and thrill that it works.
And potatoes grown from old potatoes, not necessarily going down the tuber route. I did have some, but these were actually grown from off potatoes that I bought in the supermarket. Okay?
I mean, on that note, I mean, again, I shared this in the last video, so apologies to those who saw the last one. But there was this interview I heard of this guy who's basically cleared out an acre out in Hawaii, and he said, look, you know, if we took kids and showed them how to plant tomato seeds, and then from that create tomatoes and then plant more tomato seeds, it's a model of abundance. And what we are in is a model of scarcity. You know, there isn't enough to go around. We've got all the answers. Here's the medicine. Here's the education, all given to you by the state. But if you just pull away from that and say, no, I'm going to plant my own potatoes, I want to plant my own tomatoes, you have now an infinite supply of nourishment and food, proportionate to the amount of land you've got on your skills. But still, the principle is you can turn one tomato seed into hundreds of tomatoes, thousands of tomatoes, and you can feed generations.
It's not the number of apples you can produce, but it's the number of seeds that can then produce even more trees or whatever. And you know, I have to say, having my own apples is an absolute joy. It's just that with some of the other crops, I haven't rotated as quickly as I should have done. And it would have been really nice to, and what I want to do in the future is to have a proper go at staging things so that I've always got something coming on, I can plant something. So that gives you a more longevity of your product, of your crop. And it does lead to more self-sufficiency. The problem that we've got is that, you know, you can grow things, they're done, crop's finished. But if you can keep it going, if you can make it so that you can more or less live off it, that'll be wonderful. This is only a start, Erkan, Shulagh. It's nothing massive. Let's not try and say it's something more than it is. I made a small start, but now I want to keep going because
I just want to nail something here, though, Chris. Right, for the audience, is the shift was massive. The shift from saying, right, I'm watching the BBC, this doesn't sound right. I'm going to start asking my own questions. I'm going to start looking at the world, and I'm going to start acting in a way that is commensurate with what I think is happening. And you've taken this self-sufficient route. That's the miracle shift. What you've done then is taken the actions you can, and you're producing results that reflect your view of the world and your shift in perspective and commitment. I think, yeah, we can hold up one, you know, a little plate of tomatoes and just go, it's a few tomatoes. So no. That is the start of a whole new, you know, ripple effect. You know what we want to achieve with these programs that Shulagh and I are so passionate about is taking those shifts and those understandings and ripple them out in as far as we can get them to travel. So you growing a small plate of collecting a small plate of tomatoes today is a very small thing in reality, but in concept, in context, in reach, it's massive. I think it's huge because
it's going to lead to. Yeah,
sorry, carry on.
More.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
look,
it's hopefully going to go ahead.
If we're looking at the massive unemployment and people coming off furlough, and what I think, and maybe you may want to add to this, Shulagh and Chris, is universal basic income. If you sign up for a vaccine, the ability to grow your own food is it's what they call it, a survival strategy. It's a strategy for independence and freedom. It's massive.
I think it's going to be huge, and never forget that it was you setting out on this journey that really inspired me to make that shift as well. So you know, the exponential effect of us just realizing our own creative potential, even on such a small scale, like as the ripple effect, it's massive.
Well, I hope it does ripple out, because if I could do it, anyone could do it. Let's not beat about the bush here. I didn't do anything special. It meant that I could trade these things from neighbours. We could barter if we have to. If they can grow things, that could lead to a whole different ecosystem, like a sort of commune of vegetable growers, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not trying to be left-wing about it. I'm just trying to...
I think it transcends that, though, Chris. I think it transcends left-wing, right-wing, and all those kind of labels that that are imposed on us. I think it transcends all that, because as a species, we've been growing food. Well, you know, it's part of our very existence. Food and the growing of it is part of that. So it's been we've been conditioned out of it, because we go down to the shops and we get a packet of whatever, and we get a packet, and we trade our time to be able to have some tokens to just go and take this stuff off somebody, to rely for our nourishment and our nutrition. They say don't let corporations make your food, but at the same time, don't let them grow your food either. I think it's amazing, and I bet you, again, these are new things for me, but I bet you the pound for pound, the calorie and the sustenance and the minerals and the vitamins in what you've grown compared to what you go and buy in a mainstream supermarket are uncomparable.
Ultimately, the taste
don't even compare. They're not even in the same league nutritionally.
The taste is amazing, guys, of course, but there's no fertilizers, anything else on here. There's no anything dangerous. It's pure. It's unadulterated.
Are you fully organic, Chris?
Yes, absolutely. So there's nothing on here that could cause you any problems, and that really tells when you actually taste it, because anything in the supermarket just doesn't taste the same. It's just so sweet, just so beautiful. And
what does it smell like?
It smells amazing. Even the carrots are just phenomenal. If we had smell-o-vision, you'd be able to, zoom smell-o-vision or something.
I'm salivating.
If I could get this smell to you, you would absolutely see where I'm coming from. And without that, you're probably not going to get on board. But I hopefully people will. People can see that even if you have a little bit of land, you can make a difference. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't have that luxury. They're in flats, they're in various shared accommodation. It's very difficult. But I would urge anyone, if they can get a small allotment or anything, to go there and make that difference, because you will feel so much more fulfilled for doing it in yourself. And when you're actually eating something or preparing something that you've done yourself, like I did last night with roasted beetroot, mozzarella, and walnuts, which sounds completely hideous, but it would have sounded hideous to me a few months ago. But now I'm actually on board with it, and I can think, this stuff fills me, it makes me feel better. I know it's good for me, and I go to bed thinking, yeah, I've had a good day. It's that kind of shift that's occurred thanks to all these
can I kind of change the direction a little bit? Got that? Obviously, Shulagh, got any questions? I don't want to dominate this, but can you tell us a little bit about what the future plans are? What could you share with us about that?
Well, my future plans are that I've been fortunate in that, I've been looking to perhaps expand, but it does mean a bit of relocation. So I'm looking at going to my family roots, which is in Wales, getting myself only probably about 2 to 3 acres, to be honest with you, but that's all you need. And bringing this on further. So my plan in the next year is hopefully to be able to share with you a journey from my garden near Bournemouth to what I can grow in Wales and let you see what I can achieve. And I don't want this to be some sort of big show-off session. I want to inspire people to do exactly that, to move their lives to a different place, to actually, and I don't mean location-wise, I mean move it so that you're actually doing something different. You're actually doing something different in your garden. But in order to meet,
I've heard that you can. I've heard you can feed 10 families with an acre.
Well, there you go.
So if you've got 2 or 3 acres, you're in the abundance zone, which means you can give it away, you can swap it, you can sell it. You know, it gives you a lot of further impact that you can make with that level of capacity.
Precisely. So that's my plan, and you know, I'd like to, if I'm in the position to share that with as many people out there, not to self-promote myself, but really to get this message to everyone that if I can do it, fingers crossed, I'm sure I will, then I can make other people go down the same path. And if we can all go this way, I think we will all feel a lot more fulfilled. We'll feel a lot more independent. We're not relying on Sainsbury's, Aldi, Tesco's, or whoever, Waitrose. We actually start making stuff for ourselves, and there's nothing quite like it. That's just the feeling. The feeling is absolutely amazing, folks. It really does change the way you view life.
I've got another question. So are you along with that, so we've mainly focused around the growing of and the tending to plants and vegetation. Are you also looking at things like, I don't know, storing water, solar panels? How off grid is your plan?
My original plan was going to be extremely off grid, but that particular property was 3 miles down a track, and if I broke my leg, then we could all be in a bit of trouble. This other one is probably about 2 miles from a town with 3 pubs. You know, that's and doctors and all those sorts of things if you needed them. So it's not that off grid, but I fully intend to go down the solar route. Obviously, all these properties don't have main sewerage, and I've got water from a stream that runs straight from the mountain. So that's a good start, but I'm still going to probably have to use the oil heating for a while. I'm going to get off that and look at alternatives, and solar, wind jennies, these are all perfectly possible, but I'm going to have to invest and do that over time. So it's probably not the greenest property yet, but it's something to perhaps show people how I can change that as well in the future.
Well, I think that's a very important aspect, isn't it? I mean, our generation have been conditioned to want something and have it straight away, more and more so. And the idea of saying this is going, you know, again, this came over in the interview, the guy from Hawaii was saying, it's taken us 3 years to get to this point, to get to a self-sustained point. So and I think when you're growing things, I mean, again, this is my view of it, because I haven't done much of that myself, is things take time and have a natural pull, you know, there's a natural pace to things. And I think breaking free of that immediate results, immediate gratification, because no matter how enlightened we are, we've still been highly, you know, we've been like now with Amazon, you know, click and you got it, pizza in 30 minutes. I mean, we that's the water we've swam in as a generation. To then say, right, I'm going to take it back, and I'm going to say, right, it may take me 2, 3, you know, depending on budget, time, effort, it's going to take some time. And I think that is a maturity and a relationship to reality that's grounded in actually being related to the reality of the situation, as opposed to wanting something on a whim or desiring something and then instantly gratifying that desire.
Yeah,
that's a whole.
Yeah,
please
and
continue.
I won't be about the bush here. I'll tell you that I am from the modern generation. I want it now. I want my pizza in half an hour, whatever it is. And when I first started planting seeds, I was very frustrated because nothing was happening forever. And then suddenly it happens. You've got to be patient. You've got to wait. You've got to let things take their course. And that can be a bit frustrating. And even when you've got things in the ground, they still take a while to grow. It's been 3 months to produce this stuff. It's been a long 3 months, I've got to be honest with you. But now that it's actually happened, I need to make sure that I can make that happen on a regular basis. So I've got a regular circular, you know, it's like going round and round, and I'm actually being able to bring things on all the time, which is my aim. But what what I'd say is, yes, it is frustrating. It does take a little bit of time, but don't ever lose heart. Don't ever give up. I certainly wasn't going to, having already chewed up the back garden, so I had to stick with it.
So you put yourself at a point of no return. Yeah, I mean, so on that note, there must have been breakdowns and then possibly some breakthroughs. Have you relied on or leaned on any particular books or YouTube channels, or, you know, because I mean, that's the thing I do, is I go straight to out there, get some information. Has anything been of particular value to you?
This is going to sound a bit bizarre, but I've got a few books on permaculture and understanding how to make sustainable living. I won't recommend any at this juncture, but I've actually found, and we're back to the BBC again, solace in Gardener's World. The guy on there, Monty, whatever his name is, I quite like him actually. He does have a number of items on growing your own food, and in fact there was also an ITV series about growing your own food, which was very helpful as well. So this is all available in the mainstream. It's nothing but grab hold of it, folks. You know, do something about it. This is really good information, what they can give you on those programs. But to a certain extent, I just hoped it would work, and it has done this year. So I need to make sure it does even more so next year.
Brilliant, brilliant. Anything for you, Shulagh? Any other questions?
Yeah, what have you learned most about yourself during the whole process? Because I know I've had some realizations through doing all of this.
I think trusting yourself, and the whole situation with patience. I've had to be a lot more patient. I think when you've been, and you know, you and I, obviously working in the corporate world, we've all got targets. We've all got to make sure things happen by certain times of the month. If you don't meet those targets, you're in trouble. This is completely different. This requires a different mindset. It doesn't mean that you're completely laid back, because there's plenty to do, but you've got to be patient. And that patience is actually the key. Whereas we demand things in modern society to be done, you know, just like that, you've now got to have a different mindset completely on how you're going to deliver your food, how you're going to have to wait for things to come on, what you can do in the meantime, you know, bake your own bread, make your own confectionery cakes or whatever. And it's really been, well, for both of us here, learning new passion, a new, almost going back to basics. When you were a child and you perhaps planted flowers and hoped to come up, it's kind of almost going back to that. So there's a bit of romance with it almost. And, you know, we're all grown-ups, but you can still feel that joy of when your wallflower came up or whatever. And it's like that now, but only more so. You know,
I've got another question. How important has the fact that you and B have been aligned with this? I mean, are you pretty much aligned, or are there some fundamental differences in viewing, well, maybe not just what you've achieved now, but going forward?
There's certainly some challenges, because financially you do worry that, you know, if you don't make a success of things, it will be a great concern. So, you know, it's likely that we'll have to keep working to a certain extent in the background to try and keep things going. And, you know, I'm looking at, you know, guest accommodation, that kind of thing, to generate some income. But I think we're fully aligned on doing this whole natural food, vegetables. It's a given, and I hope to be able to share with you in the future. This is something we are aligned with: chickens and goats. We want to look at goats as opposed to sheep, because I'm looking at the milk production from goats. I'm also looking at cheese production from goats. So this is something I've never done before. She has a little bit more experience in that, having had a sort of agricultural degree originally. So that might come in handy, fingers crossed. And I'd like to try and share that journey with you, because if I can do it, you can.
Fantastic. I think that kind of neatly kind of rounds it up. Any other questions for you, Shulagh?
No, that covers everything. I think definitely we're there. It's been really, really interesting. And as I say, you've really inspired me to kind of make the move that I did. And it's going to be fascinating to see how you progress from here.
I've got to be honest with you. I perhaps didn't plan as much as I should have done. I winged quite a lot of it, but it didn't seem to work. And in the future, I'm going to have to plan a lot more. But it will be an interesting journey, I'm sure. And I hope, hopefully, it's been great to inspire you, because you've inspired me with some of your wonderful words, and that's helped me along the way. So thank you very much.
Brilliant, Chris. I really appreciate you taking this morning to come and talk with myself and Shulagh. We wish you all the best. Keep sharing, keep inspiring us. You've inspired me a lot. I mean, I know Shulagh's very jealous of your vegetables, but still, you know, that's between you two.
I'll have to send us some.
Yeah, put some in the post. So listen, if you're here and watching this latest episode, and you've got any questions or any feedback about what Chris has shared, please pass them on, and we'll pass those messages on to Chris, and I'm sure he'd be delighted to share. Can you share anything within Beyond Mainstream, within our Facebook group, within the platform? I really appreciate you for what you've done. Appreciate you that you're sharing it, but also you're in, like you said, I think this thing about inspiring each other. Like I'm one for, if Chris can do it, I can do it. And that's no disrespect to you personally. It just means he's showing me the way, and I'm sure there's loads of mistakes, and you learn, and there's lessons, and that's experience. You can't get that any other way than get in the game. So thanks for that, Chris. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Shulagh, for joining us this morning. Any other last words from you, Chris? We'll give you that you've closed off the show for us.
Absolutely. Nothing happens without a few mistakes, let's be honest, and we won't talk about the P's because they're not even here. There's a long story behind that. But the fact is, folks, we can do this. We can actually make a difference ourselves. We don't have to rely on big governments or anything else. It's here for us. We can change our destiny by just doing simple things like growing our own food. But once you've done it, stick with it.
Lovely. And on that note, thank you, everyone. Subscribe, like, share our videos. Shulagh and I are going to be getting more guests, asking more guests to join us. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Shulagh. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.